morning, witches. I'll be chatting with you in just a moment. If you guys can heart the live and share it. I'm mixing some peace water here. Good morning, Haley. You guys see how the peace water gets all mixed up? So if you look, it begins to divide. So when you shake your peace water, it represents the chaos that's going on in your life and in the world. And then magically, it begins to separate and look more like this. And as it separates, it brings peace back into your world. And so we created this for Peace in the Chaos Circle, Stella and I did. And I have had it on my altar a week, and I am sharing some with my kids because this is a crazy world we're living in. So do you see? No, we do not practice Freemasonry, nor are we Illuminati. We are witches. So do you see how it separates? This is my first bloomed roses steeping here for my rose elixir. Is that music too loud, you guys? Happy Sunday. My hat's kind of crooked. So let's see who's here today. I have a 32-ounce mason jar, put salt, vinegar, and water, and set in a room to cleanse the energy. Beautiful. That sounds a bit like a hex jar recipe as well. Slightly. But we witches all have our own practices. That's what we have to remember as we are scrolling through social media, that there's a lot of people out there, a lot of witches that are this playlist, stopping for just a moment, is on YouTube. It's called Soothing Voices for Relaxation Celtic Meditation Music. It's beautiful, isn't it? So as we're scrolling, for a lot of the beginner witches, I've found they get nervous to practice the craft at all and fear that they're going to do it wrong, because we see on Witch Talk so many witches calling other witches out, canceling people, and it's actually kind of sad because honestly, we really don't have a whole ton of history preserved. And even the witches that are proclaiming, I'm not Wiccan, and it kind of makes me just laugh quietly to myself. I usually don't say a whole lot. I never go on anyone else's page and bash them because that's not what I want to see more of in the world. But these very witches that are, yelling out into the world, I don't practice Wicca, I don't believe in the law of three, and I don't believe this, or I don't believe that, I don't believe in doing no harm. And it's like the very spells that they are doing, they would not have if it weren't for Wicca. And I'm not Wiccan, but I've studied enough about the craft to realize that what Wicca did for us witches is try to create a foundation and also create safety. So as witches, we need to, in my opinion, release that part of the witch wound, release the judgment, release the need to be the only one in the spotlight, and realize that we all shine brighter together. And what that means is that we honor all the other witches' practices, because in some sense, we are all trying to preserve something for the generations to come. And most of us have a mission, a greater purpose behind why we share our craft at all. For myself, a lot of you see on my page, I host women's retreats for witches. And all of that came because I went to a women's retreat and sat in a circle. And even before I did that, I had wanted to host women's retreats. And when I went to that circle, I realized the healing that can happen in circles of sisters. And I also recognized that when we gather in circles in that way, great harm can be done as well. And it's such a fine line. And we're all learning how to be sisters again, how to not compete with one another, how to be more of what we want to see in the world and less of what's been perpetuated. And there is a huge part of us witches that is so outraged, and we've held that rage, and our ancestors have held that rage towards patriarchy, towards men, towards the injustice that is happening and the injustice that is being exposed right now. All of that rage that we are experiencing right now as it's being exposed has been held within for generations. And what that does to a woman in general, especially those of us that are witches, is it is triggering that old pain in our DNA, and the rage that comes up in our bloodline. And in our emotional body is meant to be moved, because it empowers you to do something, hopefully in highest expression of that fire energy. We are moved to create change. We are moved to not just call out the bullshit that we're seeing happening, but we're taking what we're seeing and we are allowing that to inform the way that we move forward in the world. And what that looks like is protecting women and children of all genders and gender identification. Because we are seeing right now, as this week, the biggest exposure I think is that 63 million views on a channel about men who are wanting to, drug and rape their wives. Like, this exposure of that is bringing up a new level of rage again in the feminine. And the thing is that there is a part of us that's like, I just reposted something this morning on IG that I was like, yeah, I feel this, where it's like, this song is about, I want to be who the men are afraid of. And that doesn't mean being witchy. It means being a powerful woman. Now, witches, real witches, not just witchy people, but real witches are embracing and moving that inner fire. And it feels like you just want to scream until the whole world shatters, right? There's so much pain in the world, but there's so much power that is being awakened by that collective scream of the feminine right now. And simultaneously, there is healing occurring for us as women as we realize we are more alike than we are different. And that although we are all wounded, if we walk around the wounded victim, we're just perpetuating the problem. So what do we do if we're not walking around as the victim? What does that look like? Has anyone thought about that? Because we're seeing all this stuff exposed and it makes us rageful, but also we're seeing a lot of women that are willing to share, a lot of women that are remembering things that they've only remembered bits and pieces of, that they've had stuff down, and it's like right now they're realizing they're not alone. And that feeling of not alone allows these things to move through us, and we all need a safe space, friends to share with. And unfortunately, in circles of sisters, often we don't have that. And even when we're trying to create a safe space for sisters, like as a role that I take in the circles is the high priestess. I don't feel like the high priestess is something I am. It is something that I do. But I am no different than every woman that sits in that circle. But when I play that role, I actually, in my circles, have been projected upon by women who are projecting their mother wounds on me. And so we can see how a well-meaning woman who holds a circle, and then accidentally somehow the wound gets perpetuated in that circle because someone decides to deflect or project something upon someone else in the circle. And how we navigate those things as women trying to learn to be better is everything. It's everything, because we aren't just going to come together as witches and women and rise like bippity boppity boo. It's gonna be difficult, and but there has to be a willingness, and that's where this rage at all the injustice that is happening can actually be used as a tool or a catalyst towards our purpose of continuing to rise together with other women. Because the fact is, our history has been manipulated, not even just the history of the witch, but of humanity. And because of that, most people have never even toyed with the fact or the thought or the idea that there was a matriarchal time before the patriarchal time. And the patriarchal time rose from that time by oppressing the women. That was our grandmothers, our aunts. And, I don't want to demonize all men, because it wasn't just all men that were doing this. I believe it's hard for men, and men need healing right now too. However, I'm not here to do that for you. the masculine that we need, and there are masculine men out there that are this way, that are serving their highest purpose by stepping into that role of protector, of warrior for women and children and the oppressed. But our role as women is to take that rage and allow it to move us forward and come together in a good way, because for thousands of years, the way that women survived was by competing with other women. Being the only woman in the room to shine meant that you were chosen, and if you were chosen, you were safe. And so that natural competitiveness between women, that's not natural. It's been programmed in us for thousands of years to survive on this planet. And so right now, it's important to not stuff that rage that is rising as things are exposed, and to actually use that fire of the rage to make you react different in situations where you find yourself in turmoil with other women. Because to change what is happening on the planet right now, not only do we need men rising to their highest expression, but we need women rising to their highest expression.
Don't always work. But with Easy Cater, the food always does. Big mood booked again?
That's a problem with having the music played that I do. So anyway, the peace water I was creating as we began was because I had it on my altar for myself, and I realized I needed to make some for my kids so they can have that spell within their hands, that anytime they feel like they're stuck and they can't get out of that cycle, that when they shake that peace water jar, that it's actually activating their ability to move what is attempting to be stored within their body. And when I found this spell that I found, they were utilizing mica or food coloring or dye, which I do not do in my practice. Not that there's anything wrong with it, it's just not the way I do things. So we have that circle out, peace in the chaos. We're getting ready to go to Salem in approximately 3 weeks, actually 3 weeks from yesterday. I leave for Salem, and I've spent this entire week on the computer. And something I've realized is that I get just as exhausted sitting on the computer for hours on end as I do if I am, because I'm a hairdresser, if I'm standing doing hair for 8 hours. And I feel like I've heard a lot of people, as we've had these 7 planets move into Aries, and everybody's like, oh, get ready for this activation at the new moon, and like that activation is continuing for a bit. But I feel like a lot of people are feeling that collective exhaustion, almost when the fire burns too long and it burns itself out eventually. I think we are only this far into the year of the fire horse, but a lot of people are feeling that exhaustion. And you can have exhaustion from running too long, but also stagnancy for too long can cause exhaustion. On both sides of that, you have to make a choice. Your decisions are what empower you. If you fall victim to either one side of the coin, they have their repercussions. So not over-identifying with the wound, like I'm exhausted because I sat too much, so I'm going to lay here all day. That doesn't make much sense, does it? It means get up and take a walk. Do something to move that energy. Now, if you've been going too hard and just not stopping, then what it would look like would be laying down on the couch and just resting. But either way, there can be an exhaustion from the amount of fire energy that's happening. And for myself, when we have these planetary movements, it's funny, I seen Madonna and Sabrina Carpenter, and I love them both, don't get me wrong, making a video of, someone made a video of the concert, and Madonna's talking about how we have a new moon in Taurus and 7 planets in Aries. And I was like, wait a second, rewind. And she's sharing this stuff about the new moon in astrology, but we did not have a new moon in Taurus. We had a new moon in Aries. And so, you know, even the most well-meaning people, we need to make sure we are getting our information from somewhere that's solid. And that's where I started with, was that a lot of us witches are looking to social media and are actually in freeze mode around our craft because so many witches are calling out other witches for doing it wrong. And it's like, a lot of times the only way we learn is by doing it wrong, because we have no real history to know what is right. So we create the best foundation we can, or at least that's been my route. Because when I decided 20 years ago to come out of the broom closet, you know, I really started stepping into my power at my own Saturn return. I recognized that I had started practicing the craft by cursing people. And looking back, I could see how there is no way to curse without energetic repercussion. Now, I do believe in doing no harm, but I also believe that sometimes when you believe in doing no harm and you protect, the repercussion is harm. If that's an energetic repercussion of protecting someone, then you're still in a line with that energetic law of to first do no harm, because first your intent was not to harm. However, when I was in high school and I was getting books from the library and cursing these boys at school who were hurting my friends, my first intent was to hurt them as much as they hurt my friends. And so, although my intent was to protect my friends, my first place that I went wrong was that my first true intent was to hurt them. I wasn't creating protection. I wasn't creating a binding. And I didn't know enough to realize that maybe a binding, a hex, I believe a hex is part of, it's the opposite side of the coin of, well, you could look at hexing and cursing on one side of a coin, and then like blessing and healing on another side of a coin. But you can also look at cursing as one coin on one side of a coin and hexing on the other side of the coin. So for me, the definition of a hex is to protect oneself. And so that is sometimes to bind, which what makes that different than a curse is your first intention is not to do harm, it's to protect. And that is the only reason why you are binding or wishing to take someone's free will away, is because sometimes to bind is to stop someone from doing harm, right? Where if you are doing a curse, you have bound someone several times and they broke through that energetic container that you've created or binding that you've made. And so on the other side of that, it's like, okay, what do I do now? Now I've exhausted everything there was I could do. Now I move to cursing, which is sometimes first you do have to do harm. So what the fine line about cursing and not having an energetic match happen that I have learned is that when you exhaust the hexing, the binding, and the energetic attempts to stop someone, and they're still going around doing harm, sometimes the only way to stop them is by doing harm. And because your first intent was not, I want to harm you, It's I want to stop you, and therefore I have used every option. My only option now is to harm you, to stop you. And that is the only way that you can do a curse per se without energetically having that matched in your reality. And the reason I believe that is because I believe everything in witchcraft is energy. It's the energy and you working with those energies. We cannot create energy. We cannot destroy energy. All we can do is manipulate energy. And if we manipulate energy with the highest and best will or good for all as our intent, even if we're going in it to curse because we've tried everything else, then the energetic match is different when you are cursing that way, because the energetic match is protection. Is the energetic match is I will do anything to stop you. I am in integrity with myself and the energies that are the laws of this universe. The thing is I believe witches knew before science came in and proved how energy worked. Witches knew how energy worked. And so we understand that it's all an energetic match. And I believe that throughout history, it's gotten very muddy in the craft. You know, you'll see when I first came on here today, people were asking me, are you part of Freemasonry? Are you part of the Illuminati? And it's like, I have a witch hat on. What makes you think I am part of the Illuminati? And that just goes to show you that everyone is confused around what is a witch. And I see why that is, because of what's being shared on social media. Who a witch is very muddy. Even for me to sit down and write what I believe a witch is, it might differ between woman to woman and man to man, person to person. And we're seeing how throughout history the word witch lost its potency. And this is why the topic of even appropriation with other cultures and their practices is so important, because even in the craft, and why we need to be integral with our witchcraft and know what we're practicing and where it comes from, because we feel that same wound. If you are legitimately a witch, there's like a whole category of people that are witchy. And I used to use the term witchy, and now I avoid using it because it implies one of those spiritual people that likes the aesthetic of the craft, but they usually aren't really living the life of a witch, which is fine. I know the aesthetic draws people in, but it's also like, it's hurtful to people that is their, for lack of a better word, it is our culture, right? What you're wearing as a costume is my culture. So people that are calling us out for wearing a witch hat as stereotypical oftentimes are other witches that live their life as like their life is the craft. And so I'm usually very compassionate with those witches trying to call me out and have a conversation with them, because I think a lot of times maybe they're just triggered because they think because I'm wearing a hat that means I am one of those witchy people that just likes the aesthetic and I'm just doing cosplay, and that's not the case. The hat that I wear, this hat that I wear, it is a symbol of reclamation that I am a witch and I am no longer willing to hide. I'm not willing to hide behind religion. I'm not willing to hide behind my man. I'm not willing to hide behind my jeans and t-shirt or my anything. I'm not willing to hide. And in the past, the alewives, they wore the hats to be seen in the crowds. And there is actually cave drawings in Spain of what appear to be women dancing in a circle, wearing pointed hats. So this goes beyond the alewives. And what we have to remember too is that the hat represents something in our practice. It represents the cone of power, that connection to source. So when I offer at our retreats the women a hat, I say, I offer you this hat as a symbol of reclamation, of connection and protection. And it's so important to understand that we aren't just going to Walmart and getting a hat. Nothing that there's not wrong. You know, if you can only afford a Walmart hat, get a Walmart hat. The hats that we are wearing are made of wool. They're designed by a witch. The frequency of the wool is actually grounding you, and that is what's protecting you. So the fabric that this hat is made of is a higher frequency than humans, than of roses. It vibrates as the same energetic frequency as the earth does. That point at the top of the hat is connecting you to source, to the divine mother of all life. And if you flip this hat upside down, it's the same shape of the yoni, of the woman's womb. This hat is sacred to me. It is sacred to all of the women who join me in my circles, in my retreats. And the black dresses that we wear are black dresses or white dresses. There's a reason that we wear them. The color black attracts light, and at the same time, it protects. So this color, this frequency of black is actually not to scare anyone. And if you look at everything in the churches, you can see how they stole it. They stole everything from the pagans and from the witches. And I believe there's a difference. Myself and my research shows there's a difference between pagan folklore, pagan magic, and who the witches really were, and what the witches' Sabbath really was. Because there were celebrations that we now call Sabbaths, and there's 8 of them in a year or 4 of them. And then the Esbats are the full moons. But even the pagans, even though they honored the seasonal changes, they were slightly different than what the witches were doing in the circles in the woods, where there was just a few of them. And so we need both sets of wisdom to bring humanity back together and create balance. And we're seeing right now, what we're seeing happen is all pagan folk magic and pagan folklore is mixing up as with the craft, which it rightfully should, because witches lived in the time the pagans did. And the pagans, when I say pagan, I'm not referring to a religion. I am referring to a time before the conversion of Christianity, because basically at that time, they started calling anyone who wasn't converting, or the time before that conversion, was heathens or pagans. And so it actually refers to a time period. And so when you really get down to it, all witches were pagan, if we're using pagan as meaning they originated in a time period before the conversion. And the witches were what was hidden. They lived on the outskirts of town. All women were healers in pagan communities to some extent. But then there were the healers, right? So I look at the pagan women as more of, they were herbalists in their own ways, but then the actual healers were the witches living on the edge of town. And this is just my research, what I've come to. And that's the thing. Anything that anyone is stating out there about the craft, most likely is not rooted in anything historic, because we don't have anything historic. So what we're doing is reading between the lines. And this isn't what ChatGPT is going to tell you, because I've looked at ChatGPT. I can't even get ChatGPT. Like, I use Grammarly most of the time to like help me restructure my emails and stuff, because I tried to use Chat to help me write emails, and it was like changing everything that I believe. And so ChatGPT has an opinion, you guys. It has an opinion and it has a narrative, and it will not go along with any other narrative that thinks outside of that box. And so what that's doing to social media culture is it is creating a reverberation of the same information and the same story when actually there's something deeper. And I understand when those witches come on my page and they're like, all you're doing is representing the stereotypical witch. They're pissed at me, they're yelling at me, and I'm like, hold on a second, I'm not that witch. I get that you're wounded because we're all wounded, but yelling at each other isn't what's going to help anything. And honestly, if the witches that want to be seen as nothing else but normal, more power to you. But please explore this. Is the only reason you want to look like everybody else and to not be seen because you're still living in fear of who you are. I mean, that's what this Aries energy is igniting in us, is that I am presence. What comes after that I am presence? And how are you hiding from the truth of who you are? Because when we can call ourselves out on our own shadow, when we can call ourselves out and realizing that, hey, I haven't been wearing my pentacle or my rings in public because I'm afraid of the way people are going to look at me. It's not because I want to blend in, because blending in to be accepted is different than showing up and being who you are and being accepted. And I feel like at the end of the day, that's what us witches want. We want to be accepted for who we are, but we're actually going about it the wrong way, especially here on Witch Talk, and we're actually like attacking other witches when we need to look at the way that we want to attack other people and see what's at the root of that. Because oftentimes I get mad at people online, and again, I never comment anything rude on anyone's anything, even if I disagree with it, because that's not what I want to see more of in the world. However, I do ask myself when looking at these posts that trigger me, that other witches make, what is it that's triggering me? And sometimes when I see something that I consider somebody doing wrong in the craft, I recognize that that is my ego, that it's the inner critic within me that grew up in a religious household, knowing I was a witch, having everyone tell me I wasn't doing it right, that I was not worthy, that I was not pure of heart, because I didn't believe without question. So I recognize that that inner critic is the voice of those bishops and parents and teachers who always told me I didn't do it right. And actually what I'm looking at that's triggering me, that goes deeper, is that witchcraft is sacred and holy to me. If witchcraft could be a culture, I would call it a culture. And that's different than what we're seeing as witchy. And I know there's several witches out there that it is sacred and holy to, and that's why they attack me for wearing my hat before they actually pause and ask, why the hat? And most of the time, if someone comments on my page, why the hat? I will take the time to comment back and explain why I'm wearing this hat, which is exhausting sometimes. But I feel like when people understand why we are wearing the hat, it changes things. You know, last year when we went to Salem, Stella, Witch of the Moon, and I went to Salem to host a retreat. We were so excited about this retreat, and Stella was most excited about going to Pioneer Village. That I don't know why. I never was drawn there, but she really wanted to go there. So it was like, okay, we're going here. And we didn't think we could go there. We were trying to get a hold of someone to see, because we have a photographer who follows us throughout the retreat. So nothing we do is for content, but we also are videoing everything we do, because it's part of my passion to not to demystify the craft in any way, But gosh, I hate it when these men ask to go live with me. Okay, 4 in a row, stop. All right, thank you. It just gave me the option to turn off the invitations. I'm not here for you men who want to oogle. I'm here talking to witches. So anyway, we went to Salem, and Stella really wanted to go, but we have our photographer. We know there's rules about these things. We were trying to get a hold of this woman who runs everything there, which we finally met someone who could get us in touch with her, and we would have loved to have done a ceremony there. We reached out to her, and she said we could come there and do some pictures, but at a certain time, and it was too late, it didn't work. And so we thought, well, we don't have to do a ceremony there, we can just go visit there. So we went to visit, and shockingly, we were met with someone who was basically judging us for our hats, for wearing white dresses, and so rude to us. And so we ended up quickly walking through and leaving. And then when we got back, we wrote letters. So at the end, there was a confrontation, and one of the women in our group was really wanting to confront this lady, and so she did. But there also was, at the same time, a hesitancy in me to completely go off on this woman. And I have it in me to do that, but for whatever reason, I wasn't feeling I needed to do that in the moment, and neither was Stella, which was interesting. And I know some of the women probably felt like, dang, we thought you would have attacked this woman. But I think also when it comes to women judging us for what we're wearing, there almost is more of a pause to explain and give them opportunity to understand before we just rip them to shreds and create an enemy, right? And that's part of knowing how to wield your power as a witch. And I think a lot of what I learned by cursing as my first form of actually consciously, intentionally using my craft. So we went, we ended the retreat and all of that, and we thought we would never go back to Salem because we met a lot of, also, like, no one there wanted to help us. And we were trying to utilize local people because we thought, well, let's utilize the local community and lift them up, but none of them would even return our calls. Even for food at that last retreat, we ended up taking our chef from Arizona to Salem, which was insanely difficult and didn't work out well. Anyway, we thought we weren't going back to Salem because we just felt so shunned. A group of witches feeling shunned. We also were disappointed in the witch house, or not the witch house, sorry, not the witch house, the witch museum. The witch museum was the story there. Like, I really didn't even want to go back to Salem. I went there, it was a very sacred trip to me, but the weight of what I felt when I went in 2019 left me feeling like I don't want to go back there. But Stella really wanted to go, and so I was like, okay, we're gonna do this. And then she's like, we really have to hold a retreat here. And because we had such a great ceremony, I was like, let's hold a retreat. Then the retreat brought me back to that same feeling in 2019 of, I don't want to go back to this place. Everyone's judging me here. All we heard was that the witches were attacking one another. The covens were against one another. There was no real sisterhood. The Witch Museum perpetuates a story of witches, that we are some demonic, evil creatures. That Witch Museum is owned by a man. He has employed some women who's trying to change it, but it's all about the money. It's all about the dollars. So even the retreat that we are hosting in 3 weeks in Salem, we're not bringing anyone to the Witch Museum because of that, nor are we bringing anyone to the Torture Museum, which we knew the Torture Museum would be heavy. But the thing about the Torture Museum was it was 90% men that they portrayed in that museum, not women. They had all these, like, what do you call them, mannequins in these torture devices, and most of them were men. We know it was women primarily burned at the stake, and yet they had a man being burned at the stake. So I will not bring any women back and support and give money to a place that is perpetuating a narrative that is not true. And so anyway, we all wrote these letters to this woman and to the officials of Salem to let them know the injustice we experienced as witches, because in Massachusetts overall we felt like people were very inclusive and liberal and open and inclusive, but we didn't meet that in Salem, which is the place of all the places in the world we thought that we would be accepted. Anyhow, turns out there was this behavior for this woman that was completely abnormal for her. Normally she's very introverted. People do have a hard time getting her to respond to emails, so they call her the elusive, I won't say her name, but and it's that name did not come from her being a bitch. It came from her being introverted. So her judgment upon us, she ended up apologizing for, and profusely apologized, actually got on a Zoom call with Stella and I and explained, she was not excusing herself, but her husband had passed in years prior, and she just has not been herself. And she realized that in that moment, her judgment towards us was completely irrational and not herself, and that she was so sorry that she did that she wanted to offer for us to bring our group into the witch house to do a healing ceremony there, which was completely a flip of the coin that we didn't see happening. And looking back at it now, I'm like, this is why all this happened. I think because our role there in Salem is not to fit into any of the communities that are already there, but I think to witness how the sister wound, the witch wound, has even influenced a place that is full of witches and covens, and how we are, that community actually there doesn't realize they're like time looping with the old pattern. And hopefully by us returning to what I would consider the heart of Salem is that witch house. Everyone goes to the witch house, and it's one of the judges' houses, but it was also an apothecary. And it was also, before it was lived there, or the resident was one of the judges on the witch trial family lived there. But the thing about that witch house is, I believe houses carry a sentience. I actually am a Cancer sun, and so I do get very attached to a house. And whenever we've moved, I've had such a difficult time moving because I feel like I'm leaving a piece of myself there. And that's because a house carries the sentience of the people that lived there. And so since that last retreat, we've sat with this woman on Zoom quite a few times, and she shared with us, because she's a historian, the history of that house. Things you won't read in books that she's found. This woman should probably write a book. She's actually very kind and very nice, and what we found is that she was just acting in complete shadow that day for whatever reason. I think maybe because it was meant to be. Because we were meant to go there and see the wound, to see the shadow, and then be invited back to bring our light and to do a healing at the witch house for all of Salem. And we're really excited to go back and offer that to the communities, because we even emailed a few covens that were there before we went last time to offer them our respects, and got nothing back from them. And so there's a lot of very well-known, prestigious witches in that community that I think all of us are human. And even myself, none of us are perfect. So hopefully we just ignite an energy there when we go this time that brings more unity, consciousness, and acceptance of the witch in an area that a lot of witches are drawn to going to. Because what we found is it's not very open-hearted, and me coming out and showing the world I am a witch, even though sometimes I'm triggered and I want it, I feel that feeling of like, yeah, I'm a witch, be afraid of me. Like, I want to lead with that. But then the other part of me that's not in shadow, that's not coming from that place of someone who's been wounded and, you know, traumatized and assaulted by men several times in my life. When I'm not in that place of the traumatized one, I realize that my alchemization of that wound and turning it into something that blesses this world is more powerful than me stepping up to any man and saying, yeah, I'm a witch, be afraid of me. I know my power. Like, if I can do what I did at 16 years old with the curse, I could do a lot to every individual man I want to, but I don't, because that's not who I am, and that's not why I came back into this life. And I don't believe most of us witches that have spent lifetimes as witches have come back into this life to do that. I believe there is such a surgence and a draw to the craft, not because everyone had past lives as witches. I think most of the people coming back to this life that remember being burned were most likely just a woman that was Christian, that was targeted. And so they're coming back and they're like, you're gonna call me a witch? Okay, I'll show you a witch. And then they're coming back to be a witch in this life. I also believe that karmically, like a lot of the people that persecuted witches' burnings and murdering them are coming back karmically to experience the other side of the coin and seeing how much judgment we receive and seeing what it's like to live as a witch, because what we don't resolve in one life, we have to come back and resolve in the next life. And then I believe there's some of us that come into this life, myself is one of them, most likely a bloodline witch, that we keep reincarnate because we've spent 100 lives in the same familial line of witchcraft. And it's not because I don't think my family is all light and love. I just realized recently, you know, I don't really have a relationship with my mother. I haven't talked to her in 5 years. And she's always finding reasons, from what I've heard from the family, to think that I've cursed her, which is funny to me because I don't really think of them even enough to go out of my way to do that. Not that that's part of who I am or what I do, but I realized that recently, just this last week actually, that it's a deflection. Like, she's deflecting or projecting probably is more accurate, that's who she has been as a witch in many lifetimes. And so I came into this family line, we went to church, but we all knew we were witches, from my mother's side, not my dad's side. And I just never could go along with the church stuff. And so I think that kind of black sheeped me a little bit. Also, being the oldest daughter, I think often moms will compete with their oldest daughter unconsciously. It's a wound between them. But I think we come back in the same maternal line a lot of times because there's a wound there that you're trying to heal up. And I think my mom's, thinking that I'm cursing her is her projecting that just her thoughts about me alone are attempting to curse me. I think we know well enough in our family that you don't need the spell jars. You don't need the actual hex jar to harm anyone. It's who you are inside and the power and connection you have to that power. But I think because she spent so many lifetimes being a bad witch, if there was a bad witch, right? But I don't think all witches always were good, unfortunately. I mean, not all Christians are good, not all humans are good, right? So I think it's that way a lot in our world, where us witches we don't realize our power, or maybe we do, and we're actually wielding curses left and right towards other women. And to be strong enough to to say, hey, I'm not going to be a part of this. I'm gonna develop my relationship with the air by learning to wield my sword of truth as my voice. And every time I speak, I am communing and alchemizing my body, mind, heart, and soul with the element and the spirits of air. And every time I am working with the emotions of my body, my emotional responses to what is happening in the world, I realize that I'm working with the element of water, that the chalice of my womb space, the oracle of my womb space, is dependent upon the hydration of my body with the sacred waters. That emotional flow is what is healing us, and the stagnation and the damming of that connection to water is what's preventing us from healing. That when I put my feet on the earth and I say, let's ground, this isn't something spiritually woo-woo. That the actual frequency of the earth, when you commune with her, when you're not just wanting to take from her, because a lot of people are grounding just to take the minerals through the bottom of their feet, the trace minerals that you need, right? That's a great reason to do it. It brings peace into your life. It steadies your nervous system. But when you bring your feet to the earth and you connect with her, there's a reciprocity of energy that's happening between a witch that is generally not happening between the everyday spiritual person that is grounding. And that's because we recognize that we have not lived in our bodies. And so we're surrendering our energy, our spirit, to descend into our body when we are connecting with earth. When our feet come to touch the ground, the spirit descends through our body, which has not been safe on this planet. So to allow our spirit to inhabit every aspect of our body is a surrendering to the earth. And that allows the connection of earth to rise up through your feet and empower you to stay fully embodied at all times. This is a give and take energy that we have with the earth. We are her, but we've lived in rape consciousness for so long, we don't realize even what grounding is doing. Like, yeah, you're not going to absorb the minerals through the soles of your shoes, but you can connect to her even wearing your shoes. It's not all about touching her, the Earth Mother, to be in connection with her and right relation with her. It's realizing its reciprocity. It's a surrender for her to rise up and give to you. And then the fire. The fire is our spirit. We're not just dancing with the fire. We are connecting with our passion. That inner drive that comes from the wounded one will never give up. I just reposted something about this morning and I can't even remember what it said, but it said it so perfectly. Like the passion that arrives when you see someone who has been sexually assaulted or abused or raped or had their power taken from them. When you see them living their life with this desire that it's like, nothing will let me stop doing what I'm doing, and that is the fire in me that burned away the darkness that attempted to steal my innocence again and again. And if you're watching me right now, listening, if you're in my witch school or come to my retreats, the chances are you are connecting to that inner fire in you that will not stop burning, no matter how exhausting it gets. Because when you rise from those ashes and connect to the flame that is born of what attempted to destroy you, that didn't, it will not let its grasp go. And when you are connected to all of these things, when you come toe to toe with any darkness, it's not, let me quick run home and sit at my altar and get my hex jar out and put your name in the hex jar. No. The power that you are exhibiting in that moment that could make a man fall to his knees in recognition of what they have done to us women comes through your eyes. It comes from your connection and the power you carry that precedes you through connecting to what will save your life. And so none of us are immune to looking at what's going on TikTok or social media, or even communities in yoga, which I love yoga. I'm such a fan of yoga, but there are a lot of toxic yoga communities, attempting to be spiritual. And I'm like, they're missing something. They're missing the alchemization that happens. They're missing true connection because they're so busy trying to get it perfect. They're so busy punishing people and admonishing them for wearing shoes while they're in ceremony. And it's like, as much as it's best to have your shoes off, don't think for a second that you can't connect to the Earth Mother without your shoes on. You may not be absorbing the trace minerals from the earth, but your body is part of her. You will never not be a part of her. Your surrendering to her will heal you. The fire in you will not let you stop going after what you know is sacred and holy and true. That's why the elements are everything. That's why in my witch school, I don't honestly care that a lot of people email me and say, I want a course with just the spells. I don't care what you want. I'm not going to give you what you want. I'm giving you what you need. And that's why my witch school starts with connecting to the elements. It seems so elementary. It's casting a circle, learning to clear your energy to stop all the spells that you've ever cast in your life, and returning to the elements. And then we go into Way of the Witch, where I teach you what it really means to be a witch. But even in that, why did my screen just get dark? Did you guys notice that? It just, a thing came on my live that said my live is unstable. Are they gonna kick me off? Why am I unstable? It just made me do the puzzle pieces to prove that I'm stable, which I always have to do the puzzle pieces, but it's never said that thing that I'm unstable. Anyway, I usually cast a circle every time I come on a live. Would you guys like to cast a circle? I'm actually extremely hot in what I'm wearing today. I want to turn my air conditioner on. Do you guys want me to cast a circle? I cast a circle for protection and empowerment. It is a energetic circle, not like a circle where I put out candles and I'm going to cast spells, but it's a circle being cast to bring you to the 7th and 8th plane of consciousness, to be protected and elevated into that space until you lie your head down to sleep tonight. And after you lie your head down to sleep, the circle will be open but never broken, and throughout the week, the wisdom that you absorb today, throughout the rest of your day, will integrate into your life. So if you want to be a part of this, I invite you to type in the chat, yes, thank you, I accept, I receive. If you don't give that acknowledgement, that acceptance of being a part of this, then you're just witnessing it, which is completely fine. If you want to just witness the circle being cast, you are more than welcome to. But if you want to be a part of the protection that the circle and the empowerment that the circle is creating, and move into the 7th, 8th plane, then please type yes, thank you, I accept, I receive. Go somewhere where you can be undisturbed in a quiet location, maybe even put your headphones on. If you have a witch hat, put your hat on. And the only thing I ask you to do is to keep your spine nice and long, no legs crossed. You want your legs and your arms open. And what else? When I say call the deities' names, so we're creating a circle of deities around us. So we're not invoking them inside us, we're invoking them, meaning we're calling their energies forth as an archetype that exists within us. So it's an aspect of self, ultimately, connected to the energy of that deity. So I'll say, bless us as we call their name, and I invite you to say that name with us 3 times. So that's all you have to do. So I'm going to change the music, get a drink. I'm going to take this off because I'm hot. This dress is a little more risque than, because I didn't put my slip on. So it's more risque than I like to be. But anyway, we're going to do this. So find your place and I'll be right back.
Hormone pills, patches, or creams that barely work, they have to pass through your liver or skin. So your body only gets a fraction.
Did not rip my dress. All right. Thank you for those that are moderating the live. I see that Aaron's here. I know Haley was here earlier. I see a lot of you asking to keep it respectful. Please keep it respectful. You can see my intent here is not for men. In fact, I am banishing the men that are only here to be inappropriate. So Ouija boards are not bad. I'm just seeing someone's comment. I actually have a video about Ouija boards, and it's no different than any other divination tool. We've got to stop going along with the demonization that has happened to some of the most powerful divination tools that we have. And before it was called a Ouija board, it was a spirit board. It was used long before it was Ouija, and it was in Egypt. So let's go ahead and cast this circle. Do you guys think I need to have Aaron turn off the chat? Aaron, are you still here? Or Haley? Beautiful. If you are a good man willing to show up in your light, you are welcome here. Thank you, Amy. Maybe we turn off the comments for while I'm casting this circle. Thank you, Wildflower. If it's disturbing to you, but I feel like it will settle because the energy of the circle casting will, if you just want to keep an eye out for it, Amy, the energy of the circle casting will kick them out within itself. So I'm not too worried about it if you don't know how. So go ahead and close your eyes. Soften your body. And begin to notice the state of your breath. Begin to listen to the silence when my voice is not taking up the space of the silence. Notice if your breath is deep, labored, or shallow. All are informing you of the state of your nervous system. And so we always begin with 3 deep breaths to bring ourselves out of that constant state that we are addicted to of fight or flight, of the sympathetic nervous system. So taking a quick exhale just to get all of the air out of your body, only to seal your lips and take a deep inhale through your nose. Keep breathing in, take in 1 more sip of air. As you do, soften your shoulders, soften your bellies, soften your hips, your knees, your hands, and your jaw, holding this breath. Take in 1 more sip. Open your mouth, audibly let go. Squeeze your abdominal muscles to press every last drop of stagnant air out of your body. Seal your lips at the bottom. Notice the pause here with no air in your body, no life force, and then slowly begin to inhale through your nose. This time, slowly filling the body with your breath, using your intention to pull it into your fingertips, all the way down your legs into the tips of your toes. Feel it circulating in your womb or your hora. When you get to the top, soften your shoulders and pause. Notice what it feels like to be full of life force. Open your mouth and audibly let go. That sound is important when we exhale. Pausing at the bottom, using the press of the abdominal muscles to get out any stagnant air, pausing with no air, no life force, no sound. Slowly begin to drag your breath in through your nose. Notice how it feels moving through your nostrils, through your throat, expanding your lungs, your shoulders, your heart, your rib cage, allowing your belly to expand. Hold at the top. Soften every part of your body. Open your mouth and let go. And now, letting your breath reset. Let a natural rhythm, pace, and flow return. Feel your breath moving in and out, in and out. Imagine yourself in a body of water that is clear. The earth that is holding the water is crystals shining, glimmering through this water. And around this water is a brilliant fire that is lit. Fire is burning tall and bright. And the heat of this fire invites you into the water. This is a circular creek or pond of sorts, a lake maybe, that is completely circular, and the fire rages around every part of the water, but you know you are safe because you are in the water. And so you surrender, you fall back into the water, and you float. Your legs pop up and your toes and your fingertips glimmer out of the water to feel the air, cool air touching them. And you know, no matter how bright or furious this fire burns around you, that you are safe within this water that represents all of your emotions. So within this water simultaneously exists fear and love, shame and guilt, love, joy, happiness, beauty. All of the lower level emotions are transmuted in this water because you are giving them space to be with them. Acknowledging the color that the lower level emotions show up as, without judgment of them being bad or wrong. And then you take one of those higher level emotions and drop it right on top of the lower level emotion to alchemize the emotion. So a lot of times it's just giving space instead of resisting those lower level emotions like jealousy or anger, rage, hate. They don't just not exist in the face of injustice. But when we push them down, we're actually holding them. Where if we give them space to have their feelings, their thoughts, then the alchemization of the other side of the coin happens. And so we're feeling that alchemization happening here as maybe emotions arise that you've been pushing down. When you find yourself noticing that night is falling and the fire is dimming, but it is still burning and you're still floating in this water, held by frequencies of crystalline energy from beneath you, the Earth Mother connecting to you, breathing life through you, noticing that you're in a completely dark space. And as you do, I call forth concentric circles of light to surround us now, moving north, east, south, west, pulsating circles of light that protect each of us in our sovereign space where we are now. Noticing the colors of light that surround you, but you just continue floating. No judgment here. It just all feels like peace. Completely safe in a way you never have been before. And I call forth the guardians of the watchtowers of the north, south, east, and west to witness over and protect these sacred spaces that are sovereignly being created across all time and space for each individual, solitary person partaking in the circle casting for their highest and best good, as well as the highest and best good of the collective and this timeline that we are experiencing now. Guardian of the North, Keeper of Earth, I invoke the spirits and the elements of Earth to join us now. Keeper of the Keys, Keeper of the Crossroads, Mother of Witches, showing up today with a ceramic plate or bowl in her hands. In our circle in the north, here she holds a bowl full of keys set ablaze. She stands at the crossroads of this choice you have now to enter this sacred circle. She will show you what is hiding within you that needs to burn away, so that who you have always been meant to be can rise on the other side of that awareness. Whatever shadows have been lurking, by calling her forth, she awakens us to how we prevent ourselves from moving forward through her torch of light in the darkness. Bless us as we call your name, Hecate, 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 Hecate. Guardian of the East, Keeper of the rising sun and the sacred wells, she who holds the space for hope in the darkness, reminding us that it is our will to move forward, our will for more light, our will to step into the freezing waters as new light is born. Bless us as we call your name, Bridget, 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 Bridget. Guardian of the East, Keeper of Air, I invoke the elements and the spirits of air to join us now. She of 10,000 names, she of 10,000 spells, she who has been written and rewritten as several different deities across all time and space. Her persona has been renamed, reshaped, and reformed in many cultures, but she has always remained a replica, the image of the Divine Mother of all life, the Creatrix, the holy aspect of the Goddess who is part of each of us. She steps forward, reminding you today of your ability to put the pieces of your life back together, with your unwillingness to give up or give in. You continue returning. You see through the wings that she has gifted you. You see through and above the veils of illusion that sometimes sneak their way even into the most holy of spaces, the most healing of spaces. Bless us as we call your name, Isis, 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 Isis. Guardian of the Southeast, Keeper of sovereignty, she who awakens the air and the fire within your lungs, within your throat. She awakens the song of the Divine Mother that wishes to sing forth through you, like the birds that trail behind her as she rides in her sovereign way, living her life for her, reminding us to live our lives for us. Bless us as we call your name. Rhiannon, 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 Rhiannon. Guardian of the South, keeper of fire, the holy and sacred fire that is with us now. I invoke the elements and the spirits of fire to join us, to burn away darkness, to pave a path of warmth, of fire that burns within all who are taking part in this sacred circle to walk the path of their highest expression of who they are, no matter what they find themselves to be. Queen of the Fae, who holds this sacred space in the South, awakening within you the highest expressions of love and rage, both one and the same. Taking a breath, breathing it out. You can become one with this flame, exists within you, burning, pushing you forward, burning away your own shadows as you see them. Recognizing the shadows becomes empowerment here. It's nothing to be afraid of. It's everything that you need to be willing to see and burn away. Because through this, you become the power of this dear goddess that we invoke today. Bless us as we call your name. Anya, 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 Anya. Guardian of the Southwest, keeper of mystery, she who has held the image of not what she appears to be, but through the hearts of women, the priestesses of witches, we see you, we see how you have been stolen, how you have walked through the shadows, and how you have walked in the light through the shadow that was given to you as a cross to bear, known as a harlot or in our life preached as being less than until recent years. All of it we banish to allow the mystery that you are to shine in all its brilliance and brightness, because we walk with you. We see you, we are a mirror of you as witches. Bless us as we call your name. Mary Magdalene, Mary Magdalene, Mary Magdalene, Mary Magdalene. Guardian of the West, keeper of the sacred waters, I invoke the element and the spirits of water to join us now. Keeper of the cauldron, keeper of alchemy, keeper of devotion and dedication, keeper of every emotion that flows through the sacred cauldron that she bears. She holds the space of innocence beyond darkness that each of us carry a spark of. It will never go away. She teaches us not only through her brilliance, but also through her mistakes and how transforming one's what we would call mistakes only means you show up for what you have created and you chase it down until the story is made right. And then you learn that you cannot pay anyone to tend to your fire, to tend your cauldron, that you must tend your own cauldron. You must tend your own sacred fire because you are sovereign. Bless us as we call your name, Caradwin, 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 Caradwin. Guardian of the Northwest, weaver of our sacred circle, queen of witches, goddess of the oppressed, she who empowers all who dare to gaze upon her. Bless us as we call your name, Aradia, 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 Aradia. From beneath us, we call forth the presence of our loving Earth Mother as we clear our bodies for our spirits to descend to become one with the Earth Mother that exists through our flesh and bones. Our feet, our body, our flesh, our bones surrender to the loving embrace of the Earth Mother. Everything within you becomes heavy as you surrender to her. She lights you up. Feel her breathe through you, through the soles of your feet and the tips of your fingers. As we call forth the ancestors, the indigenous who walk the land before each sovereign person who takes part in this circle casting today, who walk with them in a good way. We call forth the ancestors of each individual sovereign circle of their bloodline who walk with them in a good way. We call forth the Fae, the elementals, and the gnome, the protectors of the Earth Mother and the ancestral realms of our physical bodies. Though some may call them tricksters, though some may call them myth, they exist beyond the dimensions that most human eyes cannot see. But when you move between the worlds, do so with respect, or they will appear as the tricksters, because they will not let you trick yourself. You must see your own shadow and walk with them in right relation. Walk with the Earth Mother in right relation. We reach our arms up as we call forth to seal the circle from above through the connection to our star brothers and sisters who pour their wisdom and light upon us from the sacred home of our souls. And bringing our hands to heart center, left hand first, right hand on top. With the next inhale, you awaken the child within you, noticing the age that they are. This is the highest expression of the invincible inner child that knows your magic, that knows your purpose, that existed beyond the trauma and beyond the pain. They are the one that rose from the ashes as who you are today. You welcome them forward to the front of your heart space, gleaming in all their brilliance. You see the spark of light in their eyes and how they show themselves to you here. Taking a breath as you welcome all of this child that exists within you and all their feelings. about your life. Welcome here now. And at heart center, we call forth each individual's I am presence into the center of their own sovereign sacred circle. And as we do so, we lift each individual's sovereign circle up, up, up to the 7th and 8th plane of consciousness while remaining connected to the earth beneath us, grounded here, now, not floating away, open to what is transcendent and pouring into you while remaining fully in your body. As we lift this circle up, you may need to alchemize your physical body into this frequency that you are not used to. If you need to shift your body, roll your neck, take a deep breath, whatever it is, allow yourself to adjust to this frequency while staying in your physical body. We command that within this circle we stay in our body while being simultaneously open to the transcendent wisdom and protected through the sacred circle that we have cast, that no lower level entities or energies may simultaneously exist within this circle space around us. As above, so below, as within, so without, as the universe, so the soul. This circle is now sealed and will remain sealed until each individual in their sovereign sacred circle lies their head down to sleep this evening, when the circle will be open, released in gratitude and thanks and love, but never will be broken. And as they rest and their awareness comes down from the 7th and 8th plane of existence, they will be fully grounded, centered, and embodied with the new wisdom that is poured into them that will integrate through the week ahead. Taking a deep breath in. As you exhale out, gently blink your eyes open. Come back into this time and space. Thank you for joining me today in that sacred circle casting. I welcome you, if you took part in it, to share anything you feel compelled to share, anything you saw, what colors or circles of light, the enchantment within. Thank you. I'm glad you are feeling amazing. Thank you, Amy, for moderating the chat. I appreciate you being here. Thank you, Haley, for moderating the chat. Thank you, Erin. Hi, Tanika, Crunchy Witch. Thank you all for being here with me today, for sharing in the chat, for being a community in the chat. Blessed be Tammy. Lots of mustard colors today. Interesting. Solar plexus activated, belly activated. Thank you for being here, Haley. Joy, thank you. Every Sunday I am live. I actually have a witch school. The link's in my bio, and I have something in my witch school called Activations, which has what I just did. It has a circle casting you can play at any time you feel need. It also has 9 total activations that are in meditation form. So that is in my witch school if you'd like to take part in that. When you join any of my classes, you get access to the virtual coven space where you can share your homework, where you can talk to other witches who are there. And Also, I have space left for Practical Magic Retreat in Sedona, Arizona. If you guys want to join, Salem is already sold out, but Sedona has 5 or 6 spaces left. 5 now, I think someone signed up this week. So if you guys have any questions before I go, I think I had an effect on my third eye. That's when you open up to the 7th and 8th plane, you usually get a different vantage point, that the only language a lot of people would have would be like, oh, I feel like my third eye is open, where it's just you are bringing yourself into a new vantage point, and that vantage point is the higher self perspective. We would love to have you, the enchantment within. I look forward to seeing you all. Thank you to my moderators for being here today. Tanika, I'm so excited to see you in Sedona. Hi, Jackie. Thank you, Jacqueline. Yeah, Sedona is always amazing. Witch of the East, why are we rolling our eyes? Blessed be Mel. Riverman, thank you. Blessed be Lavin. I'm sorry if I don't see all your comments. I don't understand why sometimes I don't see all the comments, but I definitely know from my moderators every week I'm not seeing all the comments. So if I'm missing your comment, I'm sorry. You were able to reconnect with your auntie, who's one of my guides. Thank you. I felt so disconnected. Oh, I'm so glad you found the live today and were able to connect back to yourself. That's so beautiful. Hi, sisters. I'm doing well, Jackie. Thank you for asking. I put all of my lives on YouTube. They usually kick me off for saying that, but if you want to know why I wear what I wear, you can watch the replay later tonight on YouTube, but I'm not going to go into a whole dissertation right now because we're ending the live. But I wear what I wear basically because I'm not willing to hide who I am, and my hat is a symbol of reclamation, protection, and connection, and is made of wool. My hat is made of wool and designed by a witch and is sacred and holy to me. My pentacle I wear around my neck represents the 5 elements which I weave magic with in this human life. It represents my physical body. So if you want more than that, you can watch it on the live. Mel, I would love to have you in the witch school. There is a link in my bio, and any of the classes you take in there are all give you access to the virtual coven. Amy actually is in there, so is Haley. Jacqueline, thank you for the roses. Yes, I love seeing you guys connect in the chat. It makes me feel so happy that nice witches come and connect with other witches in the chat, because I know as solitary witches, we like our solitary craft, but we also want to feel a part of a community. And that's at the heart of everything that I offer in the world, is that I do believe we should all be sovereign and have our own sovereign solitary practices, but that doesn't mean that we can't come together and be a part of a sisterhood, because sisterhood and women coming together, especially witches coming together, a big part of that is healing the world. So anyway, I'm gonna say